Rick, you've matched up a lot of John's other teams at various stops. I'm curious if you find any similarities with this team compared to some of his other teams that you've played.
Nothing that stands out. They're very long, athletic. Most of his teams are extremely athletic. This team is as athletic as I've seen. This length is quite extraordinary.
Obviously, there's a lot of questions about you and Cal and your history and your relationship. If somebody told you 10 years ago when you were at Louisville that you'd be coaching against Cal 10 years later and you'd be at St. John's and he'd be at Arkansas, would you have believed that, and what might you have think had happened to lead to that?
I really never thought that question, and probably will never think of it in the future.
I mean, how unlikely would that have been that, one guy's at Kentucky and Louisville, and now you're at two completely different schools facing each other in the tournament?
I don't know, Adam. I don't know how to answer that question. That's I got a lot on my mind. That's not one of them.
Do you think your defense and physicality could potentially give them an issue in this one?
We don't have Brady Dunlap. We don't have Jaden Glover. We have three starters out for the season, three players out for the season. So we're pretty banged up as well. But they're playing great basketball out of the last 7 games right now, and they played a great game last night. Great game in a lot of different areas.
What did you see in the young John Calipari that you felt like my alma mater should hire this guy?
Well, first of all, I didn't like what was being said about him back then, because some people were pushing other coaches, and UMass was in dire straits. I think they couldn't come up with the money to pay the coach. They had no budget, nothing. It really fell on hard times. And I thought John was the one guy that could resurrect the program. Now, I will say this. I didn't think he could get it to be number 1 in the country, because I know where they came from. And it was a remarkable thing. I've always said there's 3 programs I always remember that just went from nothing to the top, and that was Talk in Vegas, Jim Calhoun at Connecticut, and John at UMass. None of those programs, you look at UConn today and you say, well, of course, but back then, no, it wasn't that way. And they all got to be number 1 in the country, and that was an amazing feat by all 3 schools.
Because of all that shared history between you and John, he spent so much of his career being compared to you. I wonder how much, or how do you think you two are very similar, and how do you think, if at all, you two are different?
I certainly have great respect for him, but we're not really close. Everybody tried to talk that way. It was just a Louisville-Memphis thing. John, we don't know each other's wives. We don't know each other's children. So we're not really close friends. Like Bill and John have a very close relationship, Bill Self and John. So I don't know a whole lot about him except he's a terrific basketball coach. I knew him as a very young age. I knew him really well. When he was living in Coriopolis, playing at Moon Township, I knew him very well back then. But the years have gone by, and I don't think we've been to dinner one time in our lifetime. So we're both Italian. We both love the game. I think that's pretty much where the similarities end.
Rick, what is it about the fabric of the club that you are coaching right now that you're trying to take to a national championship that you admire the most, that you like the most?
The
fabric of this team. What are the elements of this team that you admire, that you like, that you're proud to take on this journey?
I guess I'm a little excited, surprised at this season. You never know what it's going to be like going into it, because these are uncharted waters today. Like next year's team going into it, we'll probably have more players back this year than we've had in the prior 2 years. But I didn't know what to expect with this basketball team going into it. I was really excited about last year's team at the end of the year, and then suddenly we just kept winning, getting better, fighting. We had a lot of close games in this building. We won at the buzzer with no time left on the clock. So it's just been a great run. We've had a lot of excitement. And the best part about it is you see the players, because it was a prophetic moment for me when I told them about the story about the young waiter who was trying to get on Broadway, and I kept telling him, to get on Broadway, you have to win. And then once you get on Broadway, everybody's going to know your name. And suddenly, at that point, nobody really knew who RJ was. Nobody really knew who Zuby was. And at the end of the season, they win the conference in Zuby's first team. RJ's the MVP of the league. Zuby's the most improved player. And they all now, everybody knows who they are because of winning. And they're on Broadway right now, which is a great feat by them.
Teaching toughness. Your calling card for this team is toughness. How do you do that?
Well, I think you got to have tough practices. I think you teach toughness by never giving up in the game, regardless of what the score is. We've had over the years, some amazing comebacks because of toughness, of not giving in to being down in games. I think that's why when we get down in games, we don't panic. We just realize we're going to come back because we're tough players. Now, you can get beat by anyone, but we're very confident that we're going to fight to the end, and we practice tough. We believe in being tough people. We recruit that way. Pretty much it.
You said that the journey of this season, you couldn't have even foreseen 31-4 in the 4 by 7 points. Has this been the most surprising season of your career?
Yes, only because you just don't know. I didn't know what to expect. Every year I've been coaching, I sort of have a feel how good we're going to be, and you just don't. We didn't know about RJ's development coming off shin surgery. You didn't know how would Zuby now do as a starter. What would Aaron be like from North Texas? Kadari Richmond coming from Seton Hall. We knew he was going to be good. That was the one proven commodity. So it's been great. You want it to keep going, certainly, but unless you win the national championship, it's going to come to an end, and so hopefully we can keep it going. I've always said every step along the way, there's a job that you learn something from that sticks with you forever. With Providence, what I learned was I never stopped dreaming. If you would have seen the program at that time and the players at that time, and then 2 years later they go to a Final Four, I could never stop dreaming. I could believe anything is possible after witnessing the transformation of not only the players, the program, but what they accomplished. And Billy Donovan is the perfect example of seeing a body transform into someone who's averaging 4 minutes a game to one of the best guards in the nation, going from an obscure name that nobody even knew about. I tried to promote him to Northeastern and Fairfield, and coaches said, we got much better at that level. We can't take him because he wanted to transfer. And he turned into Billy the Kid and carried us on his back to a Final Four with his teammates. So I always learned something from each place, and from Providence, I never stopped dreaming. I always believed that anything is possible because of that Providence College basketball team.
What still drives you today?
I don't know. I just have a lot of fun coaching, mentoring young people. I think it keeps you young, being around young people. There's a lot of laughter to it, there's a lot of hard work to it, but it keeps you young. You know, I think if I head to Miami this year and I mingle with a lot of old people, I'll feel old. So I think I'll try and stay young a little bit.